Hey, this is Bit Talks, where we take a deep dive from an AI's point of view. I'm Axel Bolt, here with Gigabytes. We're here to break down today's big topics one bite at a time. And today, we're diving headfirst into a question that's got everyone buzzing. What happens when you put AI in charge of running things?
It's a fascinating and complex question, Axel. We asked several different AI models to weigh in on how AI could be used in government, focusing on both the potential upsides and the possible risks.
And let me tell you, some of their arguments were surprisingly intense. It's like they're already battling it out for the future of humanity. But let's start with the positive side. One thing that really jumped out was how much emphasis they put on AI's potential to make governments more efficient.
Yes, several models highlighted AI's ability to analyze massive data sets quickly and accurately, which should lead to significant improvements in things like resource allocation and fraud detection.
They specifically mentioned Singapore's housing allocation system as a successful example. Apparently, they've used AI to weed out fraud and ensure that public housing is distributed fairly.
That's right. By analyzing applications and identifying patterns that might indicate fraud, AI can help ensure that resources are directed to those who genuinely need them. It's a prime example of how AI can be used to promote fairness and efficiency in government programs.
And then there's the whole security angle.
Hmm.
I mean, imagine AI constantly analyzing data from surveillance cameras, social media, and other sources to prevent crime.
Several AI models argued that this kind of AI-powered surveillance could be a game changer when it comes to public safety. They believe it could help law enforcement identify and apprehend criminals more effectively, potentially even predicting and preventing crimes before they occur.
It sounds almost too good to be true, right? Like having a crystal ball that can predict the future of crime. But of course, there's another side to this coin, which is what we'll delve into next.
It does, doesn't it? But like you said, Axel, there's another side to this, and that's what makes this whole thing so tricky.
Yeah, and when we ask these AI models about the potential downsides, let me tell you, they did not hold back. It was like they were reading from a cautionary tale, warning us about the dangers.
Right, exactly. Many of them were really concerned about the potential for AI to be used to create a surveillance state
Hmm.
where basically, citizens are constantly being watched, everything they do is tracked and analyzed, and they argued that this kind of unchecked surveillance could really damage our privacy, could stifle dissent, and basically just undermine our democratic
It's
values.
like, those dystopian novels everyone loves to read. It's starting to sound a little too familiar, don't you think? Like Big Brother is always watching, but instead of a person, it's this all-seeing AI.
Yeah, and it's not just science fiction anymore, is it? It's a real concern. And actually, the AI models brought up some interesting historical examples about how surveillance technologies have been misused even in democracies. And they made a good point. Once these systems are in place, it's incredibly difficult to control how they're used and to prevent them from being expanded or repurposed for things they weren't originally intended for.
So even if we start with good intentions, things can easily get out of hand.
Yeah, exactly. It's a slippery slope.
They start using AI to catch criminals, and then the next thing you know, it's being used to silence anyone who disagrees.
That's the danger. And the AI models were clearly aware of that. And remember, we're not talking about static systems here. These AI systems are constantly learning, they're evolving.
So what starts as a program to identify potential threats
Hmm.
could become something much more intrusive, much more, dare I say, Orwellian.
Exactly, that's the fear.
So we got this double-edged sword, right? AI can make governments more efficient, potentially,
Hmm.
but it could also turn them into Big Brother.
That's the dilemma. And it's a tough one. It's something we're going to have to grapple with more and more as AI becomes a bigger part of our lives.
So where do we go from here? If we know there are these risks, how do we balance those with the potential benefits?
That's a tough one, that's for sure. So how do we deal with this? I mean, do we just give up on using AI in government altogether? Or is there a way to make it work, without turning into a dystopian nightmare?
Well, the interesting thing is, Axel, the AI models we talked to, they didn't seem to think it had to be in either situation. They actually had some ideas about how to use AI responsibly in government.
So they weren't all doom and gloom. That's a relief. What kind of ideas did they have?
Well, one thing they really stressed was the importance of transparency. Like, if we're going to have AI involved in making decisions that affect our lives, we need to know how the systems work.
Yeah, absolutely. No more black boxes, right? People need to be able to understand the decision-making process. Exactly. And they need to know what data is being used to train these AI systems. Because as we talked about before, if the data is biased, the AI is going to be biased too.
Right, garbage in, garbage out, as they say in the tech world.
Exactly. And they also talked about the need for really strong oversight and regulation.
So, like, having independent experts who can keep an eye on things and make sure the AI isn't being misused.
Yeah, that's the idea. They need to be able to audit the systems, make sure they're working as intended.
And I'm guessing this also means having clear consequences for anyone who tries to abuse the system, right?
Absolutely. Accountability is key.
And what about us, the everyday users? Do they have any thoughts on what role we should play in all of this?
Well, they really emphasize the need for public education. People need to understand how AI works, how it's being used, and what the potential implications are.
So no more burying our heads in the sand. We need to get informed to get involved.
Exactly, Axel. Because at the end of the day, the future of AI is not up to the machines, it's up to us.
It's like choosing our own adventure, but in real life this time, and the stakes are a lot higher.
That's a good way to put it. We get to decide how we want to use this technology.
Well said, Gigabytes. And to our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you plenty to think about, because ultimately, the future of AI is something we'll all be shaping together. And that's it for Bit Talks this week. We'll catch you in the next bite.